talking about accessibility today on the Independently Blind Podcast. Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the Independently Blind Podcast. I'm Jason Smith. Joining me, as always, is Kenny Clausell. And before we get started, we want to make sure that you know what to do if you're new. Kenny, what do they do?
Please, we're on all platforms right now. Spotify, all the Apple Podcasts, whatever you want to listen to it on. We're all over the place right now. We're also on YouTube. Please like, subscribe, share, push that notification bell, do all that good stuff.
And remember, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend and tell that friend too. All right. Remember, we are here to educate, advocate, motivate, and inspire you to live your best life, no matter what your situation may be. Maybe you have bouts with depression. Maybe you have other disabilities. I know our focus right now is blindness. That's what Kenny and I have. We are going through sight loss, so that's kind of our expertise. But trust me, we found out through the years of dealing with what we deal with that there's a lot of similarities across the board, and we all are one big happy family.
Yeah, I think it goes through all platforms. We all experience the same type of situations, going through, whatever you want to, accessibility issues you have, going through movies, theme parks, whatever it is. We all have the same issues. That's what we're talking about today.
Exactly. All about accessibility. We're going to be talking about the positives and some of the negatives of some of the everyday things that we like to do or the things that we focus on. And without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into our first topic. So I thought tonight we would start off with streaming services. I know a lot of people like to be entertained. They like to listen to shows. They like to, do audio description. In our case, we were big on audio description. I know in the deaf community, closed caption is key for them. Without closed caption, they're not going to be able to understand what's going on in the movie. Kenny, what has been your experience when it comes to audio description, whether it's not only in streaming services, but what about in movie theaters as well?
I necessarily don't use it too much on the streaming services. I know you had some issues with that. My main thing was in the movie theaters, especially when it has like the closed captions or like I guess you call them closed subtitles. Them subtitles. The subtitles in the movie theaters.
Yep.
I really can't see that, so I really rely on the headphones to give you in the movie theaters, and like sometimes they don't work. So you're constantly going back out trying to get those fixed and going back in. That's my main one for streaming services and movie theaters. What about you?
So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you cover some of the movie theater thoughts. I'll definitely put in my 2 cents, but I stream a lot. I watch, obviously I have Disney Plus because I do all of my Star Wars shows that I have to watch that I stay on top of. And I'm going to be honest, Disney gets an A+
Right.
for me when it comes to that. I was sharing with you last night when we were talking that I even watched Steamboat Willie. That's, for those who don't know, Steamboat Willie is the very first cartoon Mickey Mouse ever appeared in. That was Mickey Mouse's debut. And they even had that audio described. So, I've had a lot of success with Disney. Yeah. Did I say auto?
That's great.
I can't remember to say it. Audio describe. I don't know what I said, but for the correction, it's audio describe. Yeah. And, but I've been struggling lately, if I had to be honest. Every night, my mind doesn't shut off, man. I could be thinking about this channel. I could be thinking about some creative idea. Whatever I'm thinking about, my mind will start spinning and spinning. And I have a hard time falling asleep. So the wife, she's always like, I'll play a movie, or sometimes I'll have my AirPod in and I'll be listening to a podcast as I fall asleep. But she uses a lot of Amazon Prime, and 90+% of the movies that she clicks on does not have audio description on it. And I've been trying to figure out why.
Audio description, yeah, that's very good question. I don't have as much expertise in that as you, but if you guys had any expertise in that, please drop a comment and let us know, or send us an email on your experience with that too. I couldn't tell you why. I wonder if it's just different platforms, like different companies, Universal or MG, or Paramount, or if they don't have them in all those movies,
And here's
I
the
wouldn't
funny
understand
thing.
why, because it's pretty easy technology now to go ahead and put audio description in.
And here's the funny thing. This is what I was thinking about this last night after we talked this stuff, trying to figure it out, because that was a good point you brought up, and I was like, yeah, we're gonna have to start tracking, which companies are putting out the movies we're clicking on. But I mean, I know we selected several different movies, so it has to be across many companies, not just one. But the funny thing is this is on their free stuff, right? This is their free streaming options that Amazon Prime has. And you automatically turn on. We have audio description already turned on. So when we play something, it automatically will start the audio description on all my devices. My TV talks, all of that does it for me. And when we buy, when we rent, when we pay, it's always there. And that's something I was thinking about last night.
Okay.
I'm like, and again, I don't think it's done deliberately, but I think they have like low resolution streaming options. I don't think you're getting it in certain streaming, like 4K or 1080 maybe, or I don't know. It doesn't matter to me. I could care less about the visuals. Right. It could be 720p. I'm not going to notice, because especially when I'm laying in bed, because I don't have a TV in the room or anything. It's playing off her phone, and I just listen. So I need the audio description, especially at night, because I'm constantly saying, "Oh, what'd they do? What's it look like?" And I'm asking her questions, but we're trying to go to bed. But it's funny to think that maybe because of the type of video that they have uploaded for the free is not coming with it because of that. I just thought of that.
I would track it more and see if you find other shows that you're trying to click on that don't have audio description on there, and see how that is. I'll try it too when I go on the streaming and see if I can just go in there and see what it is as well.
Yeah, but if
I have more usable vision, and so I don't use it too much. But
if you guys know of anything that you've heard, seen, figured out, like Kenny said, comment section down below, let us know, because we definitely need to, as a community, come together, especially us VIs, right? And people that if you're deaf and you're listening to or not listening to, I can't believe I said that. If you're deaf and you're watching this and you're reading the caption, these should be closed captioned. I have that turned on. If you're reading this, hey, what do you guys deal with when it comes to the closed caption part of things? Or, is it sometimes there, sometimes not? Is it always available? Because I remember that being available when I was a kid.
Right. Yeah. So that's been pretty steady.
Yeah. So I'm curious for that too. But I mean, we're looking for some help, and this is where we turn this accessibility and advocating comes into play, right? Because we really, this is where we need to come together. If there is an issue and I've stumbled across something, or is it because I'm not paying for it in the sense of like the movie itself, then we need to start sending a ton of email to Amazon being like, hey, what's up with this? How come I can't get this accessible to me like everybody else does for free?
True.
And everybody knows my
100%.
process. I'm not an angry advocator. I'm a real patient dude, right? I'm always giving you that first attempt to make it right. And then if you don't want to, then I'll definitely I'll be that guy that has not afraid to be stern, but I also want to be respectful and see if it's just something that they overlook, or give them the opportunity to fix it.
Escalate that further from there, but always in a positive light.
Yeah, and so if you use other streaming services, like I've had some good success with Netflix. I haven't really found anything on Netflix that hasn't worked for me. But again, I primarily am on Disney Plus, because 90% of the time I'm doing the Star Wars stuff, and I obviously I don't have an issue. But at night, that's an issue, and I'm trying to lay there. I'm trying to go to bed.
Find something else,
I mean, I also want to be able to kind of listen to it too. Otherwise, I'm not getting the full experience. Which goes to the movie.
Right. You don't want to always interrupt somebody asking them what happened here, what did this say, or what's going on in that scene,
Yeah.
Could take away from their experience as well.
And so I want to switch gears too on the movie thing, because my thing is I had the same experience as you. Even the last time that I went, my device didn't work. And here's a great reason what I'm talking about, right? So that's a problem. So I go out to the lobby, and I'm very respectful, and I get the manager, and I just tell him, hey, I'm trying to watch this with my family, and these ain't working. And he said, sorry, let me go try it. And he kept trying to fix it, and he goes, I don't know what's going on. I feel really bad. And this is where I'm going to give credit to. This was where I live. It's called the River Park Theater. It's I believe it's a Regal Theater at River Park here where I'm at. And I'm going to give credit, man. That manager could have gave up. I just went in there. I was like, whatever. I mean, I'll just sit here and deal with whatever. And he came back. Now he came back. The movie was already like 40 minutes in, but he didn't stop trying. He got it to work and brought it to me.
Yeah.
So I'll give credit that.
Okay.
And the movie theater was generous enough to give me free passes for all of us to go back. I could see 3D. I could see the 4D stuff. I can do all that extra stuff they have. Any theater I want to get into, any movie, whenever I want for our next trip. So I'll give credit where credit's due. But that's a problem, right, Kenny? Like, how come, I have two thoughts of why this may be. But I want to hear from you. What do you think the issue is? And what are some of your solutions?
A thought. I think a lot of times the headsets aren't charged to fully. That's what I think the main issue is a lot of times. And like you were saying, you have issues, you go back out and you're missing the movie, and then you're in the same process again. A lot of times they'll go ahead and comp the movie for you, give you passes or whatever. But like, you ain't got to take more time out of your time to come all the way back to the movie theater to go see another movie, But that's what I think the main issue is. I don't think they're fully charged. And a lot of times I don't think, it's not their fault. I don't think they're fully trained on how the headsets actually work. That's what I think. I went to see Avatar, and the new one, whatever it's called, Water, whatever it's called. I knew it had subtitles in there, so I'm like, I know I need a headset. I want to see my son. I don't want to keep interrupting him and saying, "What did that say?" Like I said before, it takes away from their experience as well. Correct. But the headsets weren't working, so I had to go back out to the front, and see what's going on with the headsets, and then go back in, and they still weren't working. And went back out, and it's like by that time I was like, forget it. I'll just finish watching the movie, and see what I missed later on. But that's the hassle. You don't want to go through that every time you go to movie theaters.
No. And what would be what
do you think? Why do you think it happened?
Well, I agree with you, right? They're not trained, and they're not charging these devices, and a lot of the times, and what I found, and I thought this was something that I thought is an issue that can be fixed. This one of my solutions to this would be, how come it's only the managers that have access to these devices and know these devices? Because that makes it even harder, because now we have to wait for management. We have to find, maybe there's only one manager on staff. Maybe there's two. Maybe they're busy dealing with another customer issue. Everybody should be trained that works there. There should be multiple people outside of management that know these devices, that can step in and assist, so I don't sit there and wait 15 minutes for an accessible device that they didn't charge right or is not linking to the movie. And
I agree with you.
And the other thing I would say, and I firmly believe in this 100%. One of the issues, I think, too, Kenny, and I'm not trying to offend nobody, but this is what this channel is about. This channel is to, motivate and inspire you to go out and do things that you didn't feel like you could do. And the more that we go out to the movies,
I know what you're going to say, Jason. I know what you're going to say.
Right? The more we flood these theaters and we go in and enjoy the movie and show people how we enjoy movies, they'll be forced to get it right.
I agree with that 100%. Like, we have to get out there and still enjoy life. That's our big mission in the channel anyway, is people to get active and get more motivated to be out there and enjoy life. Don't just sit at home thinking you can't do anything else. But yeah, I agree with you there. We have to get out there, and so they become more informed. Because I'm thinking, like, when I go to the movies, I'm like, there can't be that many blind people coming in here asking for headsets. Mm-hmm. No. Like, my answer is no. Like, these should be fully charged, fully accessible. Like, no big deal. Like, oh yeah, here you go. Go to this channel and press the button. Come right on. So yeah.
And do you know how many people in the community that I talk to that don't even know that exists in the theater? So this is why these conversations are important. And look, if you're someone who doesn't like movies and all that, I'm not telling you have to change your lifestyle to make a difference, for movies. As you'll see, that'll be a theme of the podcast as we go on. There's plenty of other areas where maybe you used to love to do it, and for some reason you feel like it's too hard or it's not capable. We want to make that come to life, talk about how it can be, and also show you and tell you and describe to you how it can be an experience for you. So just keep that in mind. I'm not forcing anybody to go to the movies,
Right.
but we need to get out more.
Yes.
I think that's a good transition.
What's next on our list, Jason? Where are we going to
I
next?
think let's talk about travel, because you and I like we both travel. We've only been able to travel. Well, we've done day trips and we've done one trip together, but you travel way more than I do. But we both travel. And what are some of your experiences? Because I know that I've had some good, some bad. You've had some good and bad. So go ahead and share some of your favorites and goods and bads.
Goods and bads. Let's start with, I guess, airlines, right? Airfare, or flying. We'll cover flying first, I guess. Um, my last couple of trips, flying solo, I guess you can say, actually has been really good. Um, I'm not sure. Let's just start from booking your flight, right?
Yeah.
When you first book your flight, you can always do the tab down. But yeah, so she counted the rows from front to back for me to let me know where the exits are, in case something happens on the airlines.
Mm.
But like I said, don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Be your own self advocate. Let them know what's going on, and it makes things a whole lot easier for you in the process. Um, I also travel by Amtrak a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
My fave.
Amtrak is good for the most part. A lot of the stations don't have really true assistance for you. Um, my biggest thing is ask questions. Make sure you know what track you got to go to. Make sure you know. Um, Ask the attendant if this is the right train. So you get on the right and listen. Because the train numbers are broadcast for you. But um, in LA, they have really good assistants. They're really helpful. They get you on the cart, take you straight to the train, stuff like that. I know in Sacramento they have a cart too as well, which is really great. But for the most part, it's pretty good. It's a problem when you get to the buses.
Yeah.
Um, Jason will tell that story for you guys.
Uh, like I love Amtrak, man. That's my way to LA. I love going down to LA, Anaheim area.
Right.
I love it down there. But yeah, dude, like everything is seamless up until you get to Bakersfield, because you'd think after all these years they would have got some dynamite and made some tracks to that mountain, but they didn't. So you got to bust it over. And I mean, I honestly, I don't. It's not that big of a deal except for timing, right? You got to get off the train, wait for the bus to be ready, get on the bus, transfer your luggage, and then head up to LA. Now, if you're going straight to LA, it's a one stop, you're done. But if you're going further, the bus takes you to Central Station, and you got to they take care of you there. But now you got to transfer again, and then get to your other destination. And that could be problematic, especially when your drop off is near an airport on a street that's in the middle of Timbuktu and there's no signs. If anybody watched our Universal trip,
Yes, we talked about that already.
yeah, I
But
don't want to
go
get
check that video out for
over
sure.
in
It's our
depth in
Universal
it.
Studios one.
Yeah,
But
I don't
yeah,
want to. If you want to go listen to our Universal after show, yeah, you'll get the full story on that one. So if you want to watch that, go
we
ahead
cut
and
out.
head back over and watch the aftermath show, because we get into great detail what happened that day. But just remember, no matter whether if you're traveling by plane, airplane, traveling by car, airplane, train, just make sure that you take the initial steps to really investigate where you got to be in, because it can catch you off guard. And I've heard some horror stories. Kenny, have you had any? I know that you've had some great experiences of late, but what about like? Is there any been moments where it's been like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm in this situation?
Except for that Universal one, I haven't. My biggest advice is get to wherever your initial departure city is at early. You know,
Yeah.
because last time I was in Philadelphia, I got to the airport super early, but the airport was packed and they were short staffed for assistance people. So we had a line of people there, and the lady I was sitting next to, she was waiting for her flight, and she missed her flight,
Oh man.
because they were so behind in getting people to the gates. and of course she had to find out she had to get another flight. But the whole point is, you never know how busy they're going to be and how backed up they're going to be. And if you're in an unfamiliar airport where you've never been to before, trying to navigate that by yourself is a whole different story. So I'll always tell you to get to the airport early, and it doesn't matter what the disability is. And I'm not sure for kids who are people who have autism. For kids, at least, I know they have a special program now where you can go ahead of time. A lot of airports have this program where you can go ahead of time and have a whole take your kids there early, the day before or 2 days before, whatever it is, and they'll go through the whole process with the children and actually put them on a plane so then they have an experience before they get to the flight.
Yes.
So that's a great program. I would encourage you guys to look into that as well. But
Yes.
my whole biggest thing is get to wherever you got to go early, so it takes that stress off you guys before you even have to go through the whole process.
And
But
I
yeah,
and I know that sounds like
I haven't really
somewhat of
had
an
any negative
inconvenience,
besides that
right?
universal one. But yeah,
Yeah. Besides that one, yeah. And I know it sounds like an inconvenience to have to be early upon already being early, like to ask you to, but these are some of the things that come along with the territory, okay? Like we can't expect everything to be seamless. We can't expect every door to be open for us when we get to places. We still have to live that life of equality. So these are some of the adjustments that we can make just to make it easier for ourselves. And you plan ahead. And in today's world, with tablets and cell phones and ways that you could download books and movies, it's a great place if you do it right, that you could still take that extra time to relax, prepare yourself for your trip, maybe do some more research, read a book, all that kind of stuff. Think of the positive side of things versus the negative when having to show up that early, and just think of ways you could entertain yourself or the people that you're with. And because I know that there's I've heard stories, and I'm not even going to try to tell the story I heard. One day maybe I'll get that gentleman on to come in and talk about his experience, because I want his negative experience to be said so we could advocate for those certain things and know and maybe talk it out of how we can get out of those situations, right? So, you know, especially at the airports,
right.
because like Kenny said, it can get mixed up real quick, and do
You
as
know, and
much
I always
research
tell
too.
them they come with a wheelchair. For
Yeah.
me, myself, my personal experiences are like this. I don't need the wheelchair. I can follow somebody,
Yeah.
walking. That's why I tell them to. I don't need a wheelchair. I just need somebody to take me to the gate. And if they had no problem with that. And
And that's
be nice,
questionable, by the way. That's
be courteous,
questionable.
and all that other stuff
You
to the people. Yeah,
following
yeah.
somebody is questionable, because if you go back and watch the Horror Night video and you trying to follow me through that maze, it looked like you were struggling a little bit. Maybe a wheelchair would have helped you. I don't know.
No, I was fine. Someone tried to play a trick on me, and never mind. We ain't gonna go through that whole thing. Let's keep it moving, man. Let's go. Where we going next, man? What topic we
All right.
got tonight?
All right, let's dive into something a little bit deeper. Let's go into something we have a lot to say about, because we're kind of passionate about it, and there's a lot to discuss about amusement parks, because we like amusement parks now. And our first trip away, getting hotels and all that, was to Universal Studios. So I thought that I know we've talked about it in the aftermath video, but just because this is an accessibility video, an advocate video, let's start with Universal. Go ahead, and what are your thoughts, Kenny, on Universal and their accessibility program for people with disabilities, and just the way they treat you in general?
Universal. I give them a plus on their accessibility program. I've been to Universal on both coasts. I've been to Hollywood. I've been to Universal Orlando. I went to Island Adventure. Um, um, but I kind of like the paper system that they still use. It's less technology you have to use, I guess you could say. It makes it really simple. You go to the ride, they give you return time to come back, and you just come back and you go through their
Yeah.
express line. And actually getting the pass is a lot easier. I won't say a lot easier, but you go to the guest services in Hollywood. The guy who saw us in line was like, "Oh, you guys are visually impaired. Let's come up here. I'll get you guys passes and
Yeah. Oh yeah.
explain how it worked and gave us and sent us on our way. Really simple, really smooth, really easy." In Orlando at Island Adventure, they went through the series of questions they asked you. Not necessarily of your disability because you can't. They can ask you that question, but
Right.
they ask you how can we assist you here. You tell them what you have, how your experience be better with the disability pass. And the lady up there was friendly, nice, and I'm like, well, I don't know how to answer that question. I was like, I'm a K. I'm like, I don't know how to answer that question. Like here's my issues. And
Yeah.
she just started laughing. She goes, never mind. Here you go. And she was really cool about it. But if you do have issues, I know people do have issues getting their passes.
Yeah.
Sometimes I always encourage you to either ask to speak to a manager right then and there, and if that don't work out for you guys, go walk away, and go into the parks, and from there, just look for. I know Disneyland has the tent,
Yeah.
and Universal has the same type of system too, where that gets service agents actually in the park, so you can go talk to somebody else, and most cast members are super friendly, super helpful, and though if they can help you out, they will, So just be friendly, be nice, and move on, and things generally work out. It will work out eventually, But yeah, that's my thing on Universal. I thoroughly enjoy Universal. I can't wait to go back. Hopefully this year we'll go back down for Universal Horror Nights and stuff like
Oh
that again.
man,
But yeah,
that's
what's your
on my
thoughts on Universal?
dude, Horror Nights is on my calendar. I had such a black. For the first time ever, I'm waiting for them to announce what scare zones are going to be because I'm like I had so much fun.
Hmm.
I've only been to Universal once. And that was the experience, and it was flawless, dude. I mean, again, walk right in. They identified us. They gave us the paperwork, and I'm with you. Having that paperwork, having that, it keeps us off our phones now as a visually impaired individual, I need my phone for a lot of things. You and I, even together, right? We go up, we got to get something to eat. We got to maybe use the magnification on it or try to find
Right.
ways to read menus, to read signs, to like, we're constantly using those things. And as content creators, right, our phones may or may not be our primary camera, or it's definitely our backup camera, and we have to have battery life. Now, I know there's external batteries and all this other stuff, but it just complicates a complicated situation even more. And it's about that ease of process. So I'm with you.
Oh,
I love the paper copy. I love the paper copy. Which leads us into Disneyland because I think Disneyland itself is a bit complicated itself. Now, I'm not this is not negative, but they're a little bit more complicated as far as um it being all on your app, doing your Disney app, and especially when it comes to that virtual queue stuff. I'll go ahead and let you start there and talk about the virtual queue.
virtual queue. We're into Disneyland and Disney World now. Virtual queue system is from the vision impaired and blinded community. It's not very. It's accessible, but it's not very. I'll say fair on an equal platform with
It's a
everybody else
funny one.
using
It's
it.
a funny one.
Just
Let me
because,
hold on. I don't mean to stop you,
right,
but I didn't think of it that way, right? Like you were trying to say it's accessible, but it's
yeah,
weird the different levels of accessibility, right? Because let's be honest,
right.
with voiceover,
It
technically,
it is accessible. We can
right?
use it, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, but
But if something sells out, or the passes are all gone in a second or 2 seconds,
yes,
and it takes us to double click on everything, and there's two screens you got to get through to get into the virtual queue, the chances of us getting a virtual queue line is near to none. So that's my problem with the virtual queue system, with the Disney system right now, is that it's accessible, but it's not equal for everybody else using it. For us to get into the most popular rides.
yeah,
And of course, there's things you can do if it doesn't work out, like go to guest relations and go to customer service and talk to them, which I experienced while I was in Disney World, would go to get on a Guardians of the Galaxy ride. And like each person you talk to will give you a different answer,
yep,
unfortunately. So, like I said before, if you don't get the answer you want at that current time, you know, either like I said, ask to speak to a manager or someone higher up, and then also if that don't work out, go into the parks and find somebody else to talk to, which I did because I didn't get the answer I want when I went to guest relations at Disney World, and I went to speak to another cast member in the park at one of their guest relations tents in the park there, and she was more than happy to help me out and get me into the virtual queue or get me a what they call a guest experience pass so I can get on the ride anytime I want to while I was there at Epcot. But that's my biggest problem with with the virtual queue at Disneyland, Disneyland and Disney World, and then the disability service DIS pass. We call it
Yeah.
DIS pass at Disneyland and Disney World. There are advantages and disadvantages to it, like good and setting it up. The process you had to go through is not necessarily easy, but the advantage is if you go through that process ahead of time, you can go ahead and select your 2 rides per day while you're there and have those already set up for you before you even get to Disneyland and Disney World. And you can also go to the park itself and do it at the guest relations like you do at Universal too if you don't go through the online service. I've heard and Jason heard some stories about people not getting the DAS pass for
Being
whatever
denied.
reason,
Yeah.
which is unusual. We'll say that I never had a problem with that before.
No.
Any park I ever went to, I never had a problem with getting the DAS pass. I know Disney has changed their policies and what they do stuff now, but it still be the same. It shouldn't be a problem. It shouldn't be an issue. Let's just say that. What about you?
Yeah, I'm with you. I've heard horror stories about people being actually denied, um, that are visually impaired, and nearly totally blind. So, uh, I want to get into that really deep, but before I do, I want to give a shout out to cast members at Disneyland too for making magic happen. With every negative, there's always more positive when it comes to some of these experiences with some of these companies. But I do believe that there's room for growth, right? There's room for growth everywhere. There's room
There's
for growth.
always room for growth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's room for growth for us as individuals, right? Dealing with our sight loss and finding different ways to live life and do things differently than we used to. And there's growth for companies to recognize that. And that's why I said earlier, it's important. Our best way that we can advocate for ourselves is to actually get out there and make ourselves available to the community, because it truly is the way that we bring attention to the situation. Now, what my personal experience has been, like I said, I've walked in, I've never done the online part, which I think being able to do that in advance is a step in the right direction. My idea later is taking that a step further, but I've always done the customer service thing. And again, they can't ask you your disability. You have to explain to them, and it almost feels like, right? And I want your thoughts on this. What is it like when someone says, "So, what are your needs?" Can't see. Like, you know what I mean?
I mean,
It's almost like saying, it's almost asking me, "So, what do you see?" I can't explain to you what I see and don't see. It's
it's a generic.
difficult.
They have their generic questions that they have to ask to everybody that comes in there, right? Asking for a
Yeah,
disability pass. I understand that,
yeah,
but and some people with disabilities are not seen, right? Or you know, ours in our case, if we walk in with our cane, it's like hello. It's pretty obvious, but
yeah.
at the same time, they can't ask you what your disability is. And it's a catch-22. And there's certain ways, we ain't gonna get into how you should answer the questions, but
Right.
you say what you really need and what you need help with,
And
and most times it's really simple and easy.
hmm,
I don't understand. I couldn't answer what happened with the issues they're talking about, but yeah, most times I never had an issue with the getting disability pass. But yeah,
so I'm gonna get in a little hard on this situation now, about what I think is an issue, right? Um, but before I do, I want to just tell everybody, the way that you advocate is the way that you advocate, right? Like, I'm not telling anybody what to do or how to do it or how to explain their blindness, not to explain their blindness. But my problem is they say that it's because of HIPAA, that they're not allowed, because a lot of us, most people that I've seen, even in the parks, have no problem pulling out some identification or some doctor form and saying, "Hey, you know, I'm disabled," and I get the idea that people take advantage of everything. But
right.
but what's the
I
difference?
agree. I could agree with that, especially for Disney
Yeah,
before they implement this new system,
yeah,
because before you would go through the exit and you
mm-hmm,
would skip the whole line and get right on the ride, right? Like
yeah,
you're star or something like that.
Yeah.
But now it's not like that. Now you
No.
still got to wait the same amount of time as
Yeah.
everybody else. You just go back to the ride and go through the express lane. But yeah, go ahead.
No, but yeah, but see, but my thing is like, because what happened to a friend, right? It's obvious to me, I mean, I can't speak to what my friend was doing before he got to the counter, but the cast member obviously saw him do something. Something. I couldn't tell you what it was. He can't even tell you because he was just being himself. He was with his wife. And they pegged him and just said, "You don't need it." Basically told him he didn't need it. Now, based off what? Based off what? I mean, the man has very little vision, right? And he's trying to experience this with his family, and this pass not only provides him safety to get on rides, but allows him to get in front rows, get closer to shows, take some of the pressure off his family for being in the regular line, being surrounded, lower his anxiety levels. Like the list can go on and on and on. And there's a cast member that projected his thoughts and determined him essentially to me as a fake, because I've never ever had a problem getting a pass with
No,
my
yeah.
vision, with
The
my
only thing,
visuals.
the only thing I can think of is I don't like you said. I don't know what he was doing in line before,
He
but
looked at his watch.
she
I
he
don't know.
made the cast member made like, well, you had somebody here with you. You don't need a pass, you know. But even still, that was the case. That's not a you still don't deny somebody a pass for that. No.
No.
But yeah,
Yeah. So if you're not allowed to prove your case because of HIPAA, no, we're not allowed to ask, we're not allowed to see, but you're allowed to assume.
right.
See where I have a problem with that? This is where I'm like, man, and you and I both have written emails and such to Disney's organization asking questions about certain accessibility stuff. We've gotten blase. I'm going to be honest, like typical premeditated responses, not really getting clarity or clarification on, well, why or what or this and that and the third. Because we've talked about the virtual queue, how it's not fair. If we can't prove our disability, then you shouldn't be assuming our disability either, because that to me is the same thing. And even though I personally haven't had a problem, I've heard of others, and I know it's just a matter of time. The more we go, we're going to hit that wall eventually. So is there anything else you could think of, Kenny, that would make that? I have mine, and you may remember, you may bring it up, but I'll go ahead and
Yeah,
let you
I
start.
know.
What do you think is the best solution?
Well, a lot of times they make these programs and they don't think about how it could affect everybody in the whole classification system, right?
Yeah.
Because not everybody who's disabled will have the same issues that we may have, as
Mm-hmm.
a vision impaired and blind person. So I get why they do it, right? Because it makes everything on a single platform for everybody to use.
Yeah.
And if you want to go ahead and do that on a single platform, I know, I think it's Knott's or Six Flags or one of those
Yep.
make you have a doctor fill a form out and you mail it into a third party, and that pass is good for a whole year, right?
Yep.
And if you do that for all theme parks, use the same classification system, it just makes things streamlined for everybody. Everybody, you're already in the system. You already got approved. You take it to the doctor. They fill the form out. They mail it in to a third party system, and no issues. You're in the system for a whole year, and then you go back and do it again the following year. I don't know why you have to do that for a permanent disability, but whatever they want to use for that, I think that would be in a resolve for all the issues, right?
And all theme parks can come together, use that same exact system, design it in a way to where it's flawless. And I know that I can already think of some loopholes that could be a problem down the road. But again, at the same time, I don't want to talk about what those problems are, because I don't want to put it out there in the universe. But I agree. Like, why can't we prove our disability through a medical format, HIPAA laws, using all HIPAA laws, to get a code, a universal code that can be used at every theme park, and even in an app. You could, if Disney, you want to use an app, they punch that number, and then they have to have or some identification, and they get a number from Disney to where, because that person has to be present, right? Because I know a lot of people say, well, because you could bring up 6 family members, and I think 5. I think you're the 6th, if I'm not mistaken. A total of 6 people could be a part of this pass, right? And I know some people, but hey, you are trying to get the same experience your family is. Your family is trying to have a good time and not worry so much about you. So people that have a problem with that, they just need to get over it. But, that person has to be present, ID'd under that system. So that part's already unlocked. So, I mean, it makes the most sense, because now you're not worrying about people taking advantage. And then you have to come up with your guidelines. And there's plenty of leaders. I personally know there's plenty of leaders in the blind and visually impaired community. That's not going to be a problem to get a consultant of what that should be or what the qualifications should be. It's pretty darn easy. If you're 2,200 or less, and then maybe you can, build some guidelines if you're not quite there, and as long as it's not correctable vision. I mean, that there's just some guidelines there, but it's not that hard
No, that's easy. But no.
A lot of those guidelines already exist, right?
Or make it where if each park want to do their own system, just make it valid for a year. I mean, why have to do the process every time you go back to the park? You shouldn't have to. I know Disneyland or Disney World has it for, I think it's either 60 or 90 days that the disability pass is valid for once you get it.
That's not bad.
Yeah, but just make it valid for a year.
But if I have an annual pass, right?
Why is it like that?
If I have an annual pass, if I go in and I qualify, I go through some system they create, that should just be linked to my annual pass, so I don't have to deal with anything. I could just, like everybody else, I could just show up, boom, I'm in, and the people that are with me are the people that are with me. Have a nice day. Right?
Well, I mean, I don't think it ever happened, but we'll see. Wishful thinking.
Again, these are suggestions. So if you're a Disney, Universal, in our area in California, we got Knott's, and but there's stuff on the Orlando side. If you're a theme park enthusiast in general and just really like thrills or the smell and theme park food, there's so many different reasons why you can go to a theme park. Leave us a comment in the section below. Give us your thoughts, your experiences, maybe some ideas you may have to correct this. But once again, I'm going to bring it full circle again and say we have to come together and not only go and make ourselves present, but we need to find ways to actually get our message across through emails. I don't know. Maybe we have to, formally in a presentable way, show up to their district office or something. I don't know. I'm not saying.
I agree with you.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's real advocating, right? And then if the response is the domino effect,
our disability, but for all disabilities,
for sure. We bind together. This is what I'm saying. That's why our specialty is blindness. That's our specialty. But this channel's for anybody that's, autism, depression, whatever you're going through, right? Anxiety. It's all the same. We all need to band together to make these changes to make things accessible. And I'm not talking about suing, although sometimes that happens, right? That's what I call it now. I call it now the domino effect, meaning, dominoes refused to assist somebody who made a complaint about being able to use the online app, and that led into a lawsuit. They took it all the way up to Supreme Court. They lost it. Those things have to happen sometimes. It's the reason why I don't eat Domino's pizza, but that's neither here nor there, right? But at the end of the day, we just have to continue to advocate, be thoughtful of others, and that's just my opinion. It might not be yours, but there's no way that we all cannot band together to help make change. Your final thoughts, Kenny?
Final thoughts for me is be your own advocate. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Those are my 3 biggest things right there. Always, ask questions, ask for help. That's my 2 biggest things right now. Those are my final thoughts for you guys.
I totally agree.
And get out there and enjoy life.
I agree. There you go. You said it for me. Get out. Let's get out together. Kenny and I, we're a long ways away from where we want to be with this thing, but we're working on it. If you have a story, because we almost forgot, if you have a story We want to hear it. We want to find a way to document and share it. That's one of the things we're trying to do. And Kenny, we have an email now, ibstories23@gmail.com. That is the letter I, the letter B, stories23@gmail.com. Email us your story. Let us know what your story is, how we could share it, where you're from, and we will try to make it to you, do a documentary on it, give it a shot ourselves. We look forward to connecting and trying out new things and really bringing the disability community together. So ibstories23@gmail.com. Let us know your thoughts. Kenny?
Also find us on Facebook and Instagram under Independently Blind. Like, share, subscribe, hit us up. We're always there.
Check that. Yep. Remember, we're on the podcast network, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor.fm, Spotify. Find us there. We are there. We are making this happen one week at a time. We would like to thank you all for listening to us these last 2 weeks. I know we got a long ways to go, but we are on our way. Kenny, thanks again, man, for making this happen and showing up tonight. I was the one who was late tonight. I was the one who was late tonight, but
it's all right.
It's how we do it. It's how we roll.
Yes.
All right. And until next time, y'all, stay
independently blind. Peace.
Peace.